A long day of hearing condolences and shaking hands and wiping tears. We all sat in the kitchen, in her kitchen. But my mom hadn't been there, not for months. She had been lying in bed, dying of cancer, and now she was gone. As we sat, dressed in black, passing dishes and plates around the table, I found myself getting up and wandering down the hall, back to where I had last seen her alive. I curled up in the bed, as if beside her. I picked up her neatly folded shawl. It still smelled like her. Suddenly, I became aware of a sound, a dreadful, guttural sound. I had never heard such a horrible sound in my life. Where was it coming from? As I drew in my next breath, I realized that sound was coming from me. My sisters rushed in the room. They sat beside me and rubbed my back. And in that moment, a sentence emerged from my lips. A question was born, one that had been and would continue to define my life from that moment on. Who's gonna love me now? Flashback to high school. I was that 9th grader. I was spending all of my free time in the guidance counselor's office because I was hell-bent on figuring out what I was gonna be when I grew up. You see, I knew that I wanted to be a somebody. I wanted to be successful, and I had to plan for it. A short time later, and not that long, my ambition turned towards getting attention from boys and obsessing about relationships. You see, I have been driven by significance my entire life. The need to feel loved and accepted and approved of. I didn't realize it, but it drove me. 20 years later, I woke up, a thriving alternative medicine practice, a big house in the burbs, luxury cars in the driveway, a cottage up north, and a ring on my finger. I had checked all the boxes. I wasn't a failure, not by anyone's measure, except my own. I had failed myself. I had settled. I settled for the guy that looked good on paper. I settled too long living without passion or purpose. I had settled my entire life to get love. And now, I was lost. I didn't know my way. But how could I know the way? I never stopped to ask for directions. A year after my mother died, I had a terrifying realization. I was repeating her unfulfilled life. I feared that I would die just like she did unless I made some radical changes. But let's face it, change is usually awkward before it's elegant. I ricocheted for a few more years, bouncing from career burnout to personal tragedy to financial despair and another broken relationship. Eventually, I realized my story had to change. I set off on a journey around the world, a journey to change and answer that one question that was at the core of it all, that one question that had been driving me my entire life. Who's gonna love me now? Many passport stamps later, I had the realization that until I felt like enough from within, I would perpetually look for love and success outside of myself and come up empty every time. That moment, it came. On a beautiful beach in Australia, without effort or fanfare. On that day, I felt suddenly whole and complete. It washed over me like the tide. There was no one beside me to give it, no money or accolades to confirm it, just me. A short time later, this time curled up on another bed in California and without the tears, I heard a voice spring from the ethers. It said, "You did it. You're done. It's time to go back." I had found the answer, and it had come quietly in stillness. That love that I craved my entire life, it was me. I was going to love me now. And that is the ultimate answer. Thank you.